I saw 16 new movies in the month of October, and today we're going to rank them in tier list form like we always do. Actually, I saw a few more. Frankenstein, which I'm putting on next month's list when it comes out on Netflix, and I will be seeing Begonia, but I'm recording this a day before, and so Begonia, we're going to scooch it into November.
You bastard!
But hey, 16, not too bad. Let me know if there's a movie I missed. I saw Twinless this month and wanted to throw it on this list because it's a movie worth talking about, and plenty of things coming out in November to get excited about. And again, hey, get motivated. Oscar season, the birth of my second daughter in a couple weeks. We're going to try to move through this quickly, but you know me, I like to talk. Let's start with Shane Black's Play Dirty, a straight-to-streaming movie with the touch of a director like Shane Black. And so it's got me a little worried, but at the same time, I love a film like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I like the cast, like a Mark Wahlberg, like Keith Stanfield, Keegan-Michael Key, a lot of people in there to provide some humor and some wit. And all I really want with a movie like this is good banter. If you can give me good banter and not necessarily the most insane plot I've ever seen, because I didn't really expect that in a straight-to-streaming movie, then I'll be satisfied. Unfortunately, while there are some fun moments, and I did kind of enjoy the injection of humor to a degree, I just didn't really resonate with any of these characters like I wanted to. Mark Wahlberg, I really like him. But this year, with the Mel Gibson Plane movie and now Play Dirty, I'm thinking, is he just kind of sleepwalking? You have a plot that's kind of cute at times with the betrayal in the beginning. Rosa Salazar's character is interesting at that point, but then it literally goes off the rails with its story and with one of the worst CGI big vehicle train crash sequences that's very specific. Just some of the worst CGI I've seen all year. It completely took me out of the movie, and thus it fell short of expectations. Not the worst thing I've seen. If you turn your brain off, you'll have fun, but it's not any higher than meh. Twinless. Dylan O'Brien, James Sweeney. I watched this very late, obviously, came out a couple of months ago, but it dropped on VOD, I believe, in October, so it kind of counts. But I really wanted to talk about this because I had no clue what this movie was. All I kind of knew is that both of these characters lost their twin. Okay, and so I go into the film with that mindset, and they get in this therapy group, and they meet each other. They become exquisite friends and a shoulder to lean on in trying times, and then all of a sudden it takes a darkly comedic, so it's very much dark comedy type of turn that really stunned me. I mean, I started to see the turn coming as the movie was progressing, but I also think they are strategically dropping hints because they don't necessarily want it to be a mystery. They want you to kind of sit back and go, oh, is that what they're doing? And then they do it, and you're like, oh my gosh, man, but my good, Dylan O'Brien is phenomenal in this film. This is the best I've ever seen him. And I'm a big Dylan O'Brien fan. I'm constantly looking forward to seeing what he's doing next with his career. But this is some of his best work. I mean, uncontrolled emotions, understandably so. Then you got James Sweeney over here as Dennis, and he's a character where you can kind of understand where he's coming from to a degree, but there are things about his past, and then he's the type of guy who's going to dig himself in a hole. And at some point, you just can't get yourself out of there because you've dug too deep. And that's exactly what this character does in this film. And again, I'm being very vague on purpose because I don't want you all to know what this movie is actually about. I am sad I missed an opportunity for a review, but I'm going to make it up to you right now and put Twinless on the great tier. Finally, my chance to use this clip.
Okay, don't hurt yourself.
Anemone. Anemone. Regardless, nobody cares what the title of this movie is. We wanted to see Daniel Day-Lewis back, and his son is our director, brought him out of retirement. And Daniel Day-Lewis, man, legend of cinema. I still question the fact that this is the movie that brought him out of it. You know what? More power to you, brother. This is one of those films that has a good opportunity to provide something very interesting, but at the same time, just give you some delicate performances. It's all about a guy, played by Sean Bean, who goes on this journey into the woods to reconnect with his estranged hermit brother, who he shares a very complicated relationship with. And I mean extremely complicated, and I mean it's not conventional, okay? And so you start to learn answers to the questions that you have in the beginning, but really you're just kind of waiting on something to happen here. And look, I'm a fan of quiet, films that really dig deep into the emotions, like character studies, if you will, but even ones that don't do maybe what a lot of people hope they do and have that moment or that scene or sequence where you're sitting back going, okay, this made it all worth it in the end. I thought I would get that with Sean Bean and Daniel Day-Lewis, and I see potential with our director here visually. I think it's a beautifully shot movie, taking advantage of the location and then some of these sequences building up to when we finally see our brothers unite. But ultimately, this story was a drag. It was boring. I couldn't get invested. I wanted Daniel Day-Lewis to have something meaningful beyond just what they kind of show us on screen, and I wanted there to be depth there that I ultimately didn't get. And you get that with the backstory, but there's really a lack of a hook or something to keep people who aren't just here for Daniel Day-Lewis's return on screen to keep them invested. And unfortunately, I couldn't find that. I mean, I was here for DDL, but the movie's kind of bad. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say that's worthwhile. I did not enjoy this experience whatsoever, and I will never revisit it. Boring! After the hunt, we talked about this in a YouTube short. Luca Guadagnino, my second favorite movie of last year, was Challengers. I absolutely loved it. I thought Queer had some good moments, good elements, and obviously a great lead performance. Didn't quite resonate with me like Challengers did. But After the Hunt just isn't it, man. It's a really messy story. It claims to have a message that it doesn't ultimately showcase. And while the performances are good, most of them, maybe one or two miscasts in there, but you got Andrew Garfield and you've got so many people just delivering on the level that you'd expect them to deliver in a Luca Guadagnino film, but it's obviously dealing with cancel culture and these highly established professors and the conversations that they would have, but it felt directionless. It's a well-shot film in some ways, but then in other ways, they've got these camera angles and the quick editing and the cuts, and then some of the decisions with the shot selection, I'm just questioning, like, why are we doing this instead of doing that? We could get a more intimate moment with our character. And all in all, you know how I feel about this if you saw my YouTube short. I just didn't resonate with this experience whatsoever. And so again, After the Hunt, it's a misfire from Luca on the bad tier. All right. I'm losing it. I'm losing my McConaughey impression. Matthew McConaughey returns to the small screen. It's an Apple TV Plus movie. You've got America Ferrera, who is really good in this film, and then Paul Greengrass, often tackling these, true stories or something really over the top. He has a very distinct style, distinct direction, and once again utilizes his skill set to tell an awesome, true-ish story. Very clearly things are added in The Lost Bus to make them more cinematic, but it never loses touch with what actually happened. And man, I was just so sucked into this journey. When they are in the flames, and what this movie's about, a guy takes a bus, saves some kids from a fire, one of the most devastating fires we've ever seen in Los Angeles, but they're trying to find their way out, and they are being consumed by this raging beast. And that's what Greengrass said in an interview. He's like, I wanted to capture that like you'd capture seeing Jaws for the first time in Jaws, just like this raging beast. And I thought he did it. You did it! And I did not expect to be this sucked into this guy's story, just a guy who's wanting to do whatever it takes to help these kids and his kid and that strained relationship, I believe, played by his son in real life. So that was actually pretty cool. I think he did a nice job. But I was just all on board, there's a pun, with his character. And then America Ferrera, you get to learn a little bit about her. You have these nice intimate relationships. And ultimately, like you saw in my YouTube short, I think The Lost Bus is one of the better films of the year. And I'll be honest, I'm debating. Partially want to put on the awesome tier, but I'm going to refrain at this point. You may see that change for my end of the year list, but I'm going to go great. We'll have to see it again. Springsteen. That's the country song. Springsteen. I could play the clip, but I want to sing it for you. No! God, please, no! I'll tell you this, the recording of Born in the USA in this movie, I'm just like, this is cinema. This is what Marty was talking about in the meme when he puts his hands up like this. So awesome. Now, this is not that kind of movie. It's not necessarily a concert film. It's literally a little chunk, a piece of this guy's life, working on the album known as Nebraska, and just trying to figure this out and saying, I don't want the studio to get in the way. I don't want the money to get in the way. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to record what I want to record in my way and capture that authentic sound. And everybody around him's like, okay. Now, Jeremy Strong's character is like the most supportive guy ever. And he goes to the studio and says, they got to do it this way because that's what Jeremy Allen White's Bruce Springsteen wants. And both of them are fantastic. I think they're both awards worthy, at least nomination worthy in this film. Now, I started out in the first 25 minutes like, I don't know if I like this very much because it was slower paced, I wasn't fully invested, and I just didn't really like the flashbacks the way they were put into the film. But by the end, I understood it because you get a great emotional payoff. You get some wonderful moments between he and Jeremy Strong's character. A little bit of a romance in there that I was like, yay, they didn't do a great job with that. But I went from not really liking this movie to actually thoroughly enjoying the second half and loving the whole I want to do what I want to do. And again, we've seen this countless times with these musical biopics, but it did somewhat overcome that, and because of all of those things, I'm going to put it on the good tier. Again, if you want a concert movie, this is not it. I'm going to stay in the true story realm with The Lost Bus and Springsteen, and now The Smashing Machine, Mark Kerr's story told by one of the Safdie brothers. Talk about the other one here in a month or so, but man, I did think The Rock was exquisite in this film. I thought Emily Blunt was so good, the way that they're bouncing back and forth. A very toxic relationship, by the way, not a great thing that happened in real life because they're always fighting with each other and this and that. And that's kind of what the movie's about. I mean, you get the fighting sequences, and they're filmed exquisitely, as you expect. I think I've used that word twice now. They look good. They feel good. You got the Safdie style visually, but I don't know if you got the Safdie script that maybe you expected. I enjoy this movie because I expected there to be a lot of drama and tension. Did I fully expect it to be about the romance? No. Did I want a little more build up for the specific fights? What does this fight mean? I needed more of that because we just kind of throw ourselves into it and then we go back to the drama and I'm like, yeah, it's not really what I wanted. But I still liked it, thought the script was nice, I learned a lot, it's an interesting true story, and it is The Rock's best performance ever. Will it get him an Oscar nomination at this point? I do not believe so. It did bomb at the box office, but kudos to him for staying inside the box with the character, but going outside the box with emotional range. I thought he did a nice job, and so I'm actually going to put Smashing Machine on the good tier. I enjoyed the experience. Channing Tatum plays Jeffrey Manchester, known as the Roofman. This cast is stacked. Peter Dinklage, Kirsten Dunst, and across the board, it's really good. Hey, Stanfield's in here again. But this is kind of another dark comedy, a true story with a romantic element that, you know, you got a great director attached, and you got great cast through and through, but I'm just like, this is a weird story. And as I'm watching, I'm thinking, if this wasn't true, I don't know if I would like this movie, because it's like, how could someone come up with something this insane? But my God, does it not come together in a phenomenal way? And this is the other film that I'm talking about. I am debating, even though my score would suggest great, I'm debating putting it on the awesome tier. I'm not going to do it quite yet, but I just loved everything about this, the way it was put together. The chemistry, the bond between he and Dunst's character, constantly getting himself into trouble based on bad things that he did, because he's going in and robbing McDonald's from the roofs, which is why he's called Roofman, but then he hides out in Toys R Us for like months. And I'm like, this is insane. How did someone get away with this? But he's not a bad guy. He's just facing bad circumstances. And I think they convey that beautifully. And you're really rooting for him by the end. And everything I hear about the true story, everybody's like, yeah, they kind of nailed it. Kind of nailed everything about it. And so I'm like, this was such a great experience. Like, I just loved it through and through. Kind of like The Lost Bus. I'm going to go great tier now, but I reserve the right to change at the end of the year. House of Dynamite, we just talked about this. Catherine Bigelow, stacked cast. I was thinking casting Oscar. I was thinking maybe Bigelow for director, and I was thinking possible Best Picture 6 months ago. Then you start to hear the tale about the ending, and I'm like, okay, how bad could it actually be? It's not that it's bad, it's just that it's divisive, and I'm on the wrong end of the divisiveness. I didn't like anything about the way this film ends, and not that I wanted a giant CGI-filled disaster movie. I just wanted a little more substance than what I got. The first act of this film is awesome. I'm like, you've got 18 minutes until a nuclear weapon hits the United States. What is everyone in the higher-up B seats going to do about it? And you get to see all of that decision-making, and then, boom, you go back to the start, and you see it through a different perspective. Kind of reminds me of that movie Vantage Point from years and years ago. Actually, that got bad reviews at the time, but I think I prefer Vantage Point. That was a little more fun, a little more entertaining. But this one, I just felt every time they would build momentum, they would hit a wall and literally go backwards. And to strip that from the audience, to take that away, and I get it, you're going for something that feels true and blah, blah, blah. It just feels Oscar baity at the end of the day. And while the performances are good, Rebecca Ferguson, Idris Elba, they weren't good enough to overcome my issues with the story itself. And so I am going House of Dynamite on the meh tier. It's well made, well put together, well filmed, but just lacking any sort of payoff. Ballad of a Small Player is another one, like House of Dynamite. Like, it looks good. It feels good. It's got the aesthetic. I actually think this is a better-looking movie across the board. Colin Farrell is outstanding. He plays a degenerate gambler who keeps getting himself deeper and deeper, and he can't stray away, but he's not necessarily a fair gambler. He's not necessarily good at what he does, and he just keeps losing money and asks people to trust him. You got Tilda Swinton. You got some characters in there. One character whose role in the film I wasn't feeling at all, and then you get this very, obvious payoff to that, and I just felt like it kind of wasted our time in the film because they didn't really go into the depth of the characters, and then it gets a little chaotic with its story. And another example of a movie that looks outstanding, and this is a great director, Conclave. Edward Berger just brought us Conclave, just brought us one of my favorite movies that year, All Quiet on the Western Front. This feels more like a passion project type thing, something that will mean a lot to those that are familiar with the source material, and Farrell's giving a great performance. It's just, when you don't have the script, when you're all over the place with your story, when you have an ending that's very predictable but very just lands with a thud, in the vein of House of Dynamite, you're not a movie that works. And so yet another potential Oscar player that's a big disappointment. The Woman in Cabin 10 is not an Oscar player, was never going to be an Oscar player. I did not expect this to be good. I saw the trailer and said, oh, well,
this is bad. This is very, very bad.
Keira Knightley, Guy Pearce, good cast. You've got someone aboard a ship, and she's trying to get answers for something that reason as to why she's there that should have been compelling but wasn't. And then a crazy thing happens. She witnesses something that everyone around her is making her think that she's crazy for witnessing. And then she's got to figure out, she's got to solve the mystery. And so it's very Murder on the Orient Express. It's very Knives Out, except it doesn't have anything that those movies has. This is ridiculous. Some of these moments are ridiculous. The answers are oh so obvious. And then when you get to the one thing that's not really all that obvious, it's like, oh, that was it? And so I kept watching this movie just rolling my eyes, all the way in the back of my head, like, this was what they opted to do, and this is how they handled it. And some of the dialogue is just so, how could you be so dumb? And how could you handle a situation like that? And I just kept thinking that, and it was frustrating, and I was frankly a little angry. I think it's shot competently, and I do think the performances are good. Say what you will about the characters themselves, but these actors are giving, Keira Knightley is giving a good performance here. Guy Pearce is doing what he needs to do, as are the others, and I really like the cast. And there were things about the setup where I was thinking, this could get interesting. But as it went, as it progressed, I had no choice but to think that I would eventually put this on the bad tier. And thus, here we are. The Elixir, Netflix zombie movie in the vein of The Substance. There's this thing that's created that kind of makes you younger and mixed with the family drama in the beginning. And obviously it's progressing a lot different than The Substance because this is a zombie film. That was not. But I'm thinking, okay, you've got potential to give us something interesting here. But my God, was this just build up, the slowest build up I felt all year. This ridiculous family drama, people arguing with each other. I didn't think the performances were that good in the beginning. I'm like, we're on track for a really bad zombie movie. But once the zombie stuff starts happening and you get to see, first of all, the transformation was great. If I saw this in real life, I'd be running the other way. I wouldn't be trying to help this guy, but you do you, man. A little ridiculous. And so I had a lot to overcome story-wise. But when the zombie madness starts happening, it looks great. Thought the prosthetics, the costume, everything about it was super cool, and I ended up having fun with this in the back half. A lot of action. It never really slows down. Other people get involved, like the local police. They're like, hey, what's going on out there? Oh my God. It's one of those insane zombie movies that just elevates and elevates, and it did fall short, I guess, overall quality-wise, but it at least picked it up to where I'm not saying it's a bad movie. Because of the issues I had in the beginning, I am going to throw it on the meh tier, but maybe turn it on in the background. Have fun that way. Black Phone 2. Electric Boogaloo. No. Ethan Hawke is good in both of these movies. He's good here once again, but it really could have been anyone because he's not himself really at all in this film, but we don't get to see a lot of him as the Grabber. That was my nickname in high school. Just kidding. It wasn't. I did know a guy named the Grabber once. I've already made that joke. Regardless, obviously Nightmare on Elm Street route with this story. What happens in your dreams can happen to you in real life, and you got this approach, but then it kind of goes against its own rules at points in this film, and some of it doesn't make as much sense as it wants it to. But I did have a pretty good time with these returning characters. I think Mason Thames is actually really good, even though he's not as much the focus in this film. That's his sister. But I enjoyed some of these dream sequences. I love the look of this movie. Those nightmare scenes just look outstanding. I just wasn't as on board with the pacing this time around, and I do miss that more grounded element of the first film. But I'm going to put Black Phone 2 on the okay tier, except it dropped the, which frustrates me. How about Good Boy, Indy the dog, just giving a... I mean, this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen from an animal on screen. To be honest with you, I absolutely love just how this director, and it's his dog, so it makes sense, handled this with the dog's perspective, seeing the scares, seeing what's going on with the human, the dog just sitting there like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm concerned, okay? Showing a little major concern for my human who is going through the ringer right now. Okay, I recently hurt my back, and I'm having a tough time. Nothing compared to what this guy's going through. Just being full. I mean, this is Courage the Cowardly Dog. You know the crazy stuff that happens to Muriel and Eustace in that show? This is just as crazy, okay? It's in real life. Now, some of the stuff, very generic. CGI, pretty bad. The scares, I guess a couple of them were kind of scary. But the story, throw it out the window. Who cares? There is no story here. You'll learn nothing about why this is happening. But I get they had to keep with the approach of doing it through the dog's perspective. Regardless, I'm going to put Good Boy on the okay tier. Indy the dog is a star. Shelby Oaks, Chris Stuckman's film. Had a lot of people in my comments like, I appreciate you for being honest. Then I had some people who were like, why are you bashing my boy Stuckman? This is not me bashing Stuckman. Listen, I get it, man. I really do. I wanted this to be better than it actually was. And I think visually it's actually... When you consider the budget, visually, it's outstanding. It really is. It was a $1.4 million budget in the beginning, and then Neon comes in, gives him a little more money to do the things he needed to do, and it shot well. I wouldn't consider it scary. I'm a guy who takes a lot to scare. I would consider it haunting. The big demonic creature kind of walking behind our character. That was really cool. The story in the beginning was really interesting. Found footage-y, OG YouTube, seeing all these things. You're trying to mesh that with an actual horror movie, very Blair Witch vibe to it. I liked all of that stuff. But once the story kicks into gear and it's our girl kind of searching for her sister all through the second act, the pacing really lost me. And in the third act, it picks back up big time, but it's going for shock factor without the depth. It's going for our character made these decisions, now she has to live with them, but I'm asking, why did she make those decisions to start with? There are always dumb decisions in a horror movie. This takes that the extra mile, and I was frustrated by the end instead of feeling that sense of payoff. And so I am excited to see Stuckman back as a director. I do need the writing to be better next time around. This one did not quite work for me. Regardless, it's a meh tier movie for me. Not much higher than that. Finally, Tron Ares. Look, I had fun with this. I did. It's flawed from a story standpoint. Absolutely. Really, Jared Leto's character is the only one that gets the depth necessary for me to care. Everybody else in here, Greta Lee, I'm just like, it becomes a big old exposition dump machine at the end. Evan Peters, I like him in this movie. I like him as a villain, but it's the most ridiculous cliche villain I've ever seen. So many things about this where I'm just like, why are we making this choice, this decision? Okay, this is dumb. The aesthetics, the score, the look, the feel, the vibe, the just kind of how it enraptured me, and then going and revisiting some things from the OG Tron, not as much Legacy, which they kind of do. No, they don't do away with it. They just don't focus on that as much. And Legacy is my favorite Tron film, but I'm not a Tron junkie, so I don't really care if we go back to that or not. I'm just like, it was good. The action, especially the bikes in the real world and how that looked, man, they put so much into that, and it pays off. I love the way, and there's just like more style to this blockbuster than really any other big time. I mean, obviously Sinners, but your Marvels and DCs this year, I just think this is much more stylistic. Not better than some of those, but more style and aesthetically pleasing than some of those. And obviously 9 Inch Nails did a great job. So I'm going to put Tron on the okay tier. All right, folks, you know what time it is. We're going to put these in order. Be sure to drop that like, leave a comment. What movie did I miss? And what film is the best on your list? At the bottom, feeling good about The Woman in Cabin 10 down there. I'm going to put After the Hunt above poor old DD. Okay, let's try it this way. Above Daniel Day-Lewis. On the meh tier, Shelby Oaks, unfortunately, looks good there. I'm going Play Dirty next. Let's go Ballad of a Small Player next, followed by, I'm going to say Elixir was just a lot more fun, obviously, than House of Dynamite. On the okay tier, Indy, I love you, but Good Boys going last. And then, this was actually tough. I'm going to stick with Black Phone 2. I just think it's a little more unique, even though I didn't love it as much as the first. On the good tier, I'm thinking Springsteen at the 5 spot, Smashing Machine in the 4 spot. Then we have the great tier. Obviously, Twinless is 3rd, because the other 2 I was considering moving up. But, man, this is... this is tough. I'm going to say I enjoyed Roofman, I guess, slightly more than The Lost Bus. But that is a good-looking top 3, somewhat good-looking top 5, but as you can tell here, October as a whole was fairly disappointing. Now, I have seen Frankenstein. We're going to talk about that. I'm about to go see Begonia. I have a feeling I'll at least enjoy that. And so this could have looked better than it actually was, but a lot of meh, a lot of bad. At least there wasn't any awful. Thank you all so much for watching. Come back. We've got Oscar coverage, reviews. We're going to talk Frankenstein this weekend, as well as Emma Stone. Bye-bye.